What is this? What are we doing?
What is this?
Good fucking question. We got some special
I
guests
brought my
coming out.
Christmas hat, guys.
Bingo.
I was waiting for someone to say Christmas special. I'm not gonna lie.
Who is Sean? Does he work here or what?
Me in, man.
This is our new AI bot. Our AI
Indeed.
agent.
Pretty realistic, huh?
Oh wait, what? I wasn't listening. What are we doing?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Not surprising.
Go.
Before we go, Justin, just any plans to update your office decor from sort of a 1993 masterpiece theater background to
Nope. Only going deeper into that vein. In fact, I've got a bronze bust of myself.
Are you about to read some Shakespeare for the audience? I mean,
Did I go get a robe?
yeah,
Oh man.
and a pipe.
Absolutely.
Sorry, is that for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's too bad because I don't have a good answer to this question.
Well, shit. Hey, hello. Welcome. We've got a full house on us here today. I love it. Welcome to the Christmas special. I have no idea what that means, but Sean Kester is in a Santa hat. Josh Wagner looks like he's about to go fly fishing. And we're joined here by two illustrious men who I was going to say haven't been in the same room together in quite a while, but they're not in the same room. They're in much different states. Mr. Scott Albro and Mr. Craig Rosenberg, formerly of the incredible entity known as Topo HQ. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for that really great intro,
Yeah.
Justin.
That was
Really
special.
I'm only
appreciate
halfway
that,
down
yeah.
with it right now.
I'm
wanna
so
read-
excited for this show. It's unbelievable. I
Right on.
can't stop. I'm
pumped.
jumping on.
Guys, I mean, number one, again, thanks for joining us here today. Great to have you both. Craig, you're if folks don't know, you are the basically head honcho over all things operations at Scale Venture Partners. Chief Platform Officer, what does it mean?
Well, actually, yeah. Before I get fired, I'm not the head honcho of all things operations. Thank you, though. No, it is all. I am in run the go-to-market advisory group. So, I have a team of folks that, works with the portfolio on their go-to-market from marketing, SDR, sales, CS.
You guys think of
And-
yourself as different than like what we consider like a normal operating partner? Do you guys have a separate team that?
Well, no,
functions
we're
in that
under we're in the operating partner group.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but we're just better at it.
But which is why we invited you on today. Mr. Scott Albro, what are you up to since the Topo exit?
Let's see. Well, basically, I work with a handful of early stage founders, and I tend to work with 4 to 5 founders every year, and I focus on helping first-time founders who are highly technical and basically have no go-to-market experience. And what I tried to help them with is I basically teach them how to own go-to-market the same way they own the product. And I call this thing, I call it the go-to-market founder. And the basic idea is that most of these early stage technical founders are a little bit fearful of go-to-market, or maybe they're even dismissive of it. And I've got, these different programs that I work with them on to, basically turn them into go-to-market founders.
It's a great idea. I wish I would have thought of
Should
it.
have thought of that.
Yeah.
So, guys, you guys are both on the front lines of go-to-market of everything that's going on in startups out there today. So it's a great perspective to bring to this kind of yearly Christmas wrap-up that we've got here today. So I guess to kick us off, I'd love to go around the horn, obviously starting with Scott and Craig. So let's start with Scott. What are you seeing predominantly in the market and at the end of 2025 here? lot of things changing. AI is, ubiquitous and impossible to not say in the sentence. The founders that you're trying to bring up to speed on go to market, things are changing so rapidly. Like, what are you directing them to in terms of like the core element that they should be focused on? Like, where's the focus?
Yeah. Well, I think to answer that question, you ask the question the right way. To answer it, you sort of have to understand what's happening in the market today from a go-to-market perspective. Like what's the landscape? What's the backdrop look like? And then once you understand that, you can get into the specific tactics or programs or plays or whatever it is that are actually working to grow revenue for a company. And look, I come at everything from the early stage startup landscape. So what I say on this podcast may not be relevant to big tech.
Disclaimer.
Stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I think some of it is actually, but anyway, I start with the premise that today's market is incredibly crowded, busy, noisy. And some people might be familiar with this idea of the attention economy. And the attention economy is sort of this premise that like the market buyers have just so much attention to give to you as a vendor or a salesperson or whatever. And in our modern economy, attention is really scarce, and there are different reasons for that. But kind of the big reason is that buyers are and professionals in general are just like inundated with information and media and content and tools. And if you think about, the day-to-day life of a typical knowledge worker or professional, it's like, how many emails do they get every day? How many Slack messages do they get? How many tools are they already working in? How much are they scrolling their social feeds, right? And it is just really hard to break through in an environment like that. So that's sort of my starting premise on where the market is today. If you believe that, then your job as a sales professional or a marketer or a founder or whatever it is you have to figure out a way to break through all that noise. And I think of it as like you have to figure out a way to interrupt the buyer, right? And so if you are still running sort of the standard sales and marketing campaigns and programs of, 10 to 15 years ago, you're not going to do that, right? Like white papers and webinars and sending another email, that stuff it's just really hard to break through the noise with those traditional tactics. And so one of the areas that I spend a lot of time on with the founders that I work with is basically trying to figure out like what will break through. And I like to think of it kind of as like arcane, unknown things, go-to-market magic that may not be like prevalent out there in the marketplace today. And I'll give you an example that I think everyone will understand that I don't think is like hugely differentiated anymore. The last couple of years, everyone's been working to build like their founder brands, right? And they think of it as a LinkedIn exercise. And the reason they did that is they basically figured out like, hey, if I build a personal brand as a founder, that's differentiated and stands out more than building a corporate brand, And so everyone's on LinkedIn, kind of publishing content now. All that content now looks the same. It's not really differentiated anymore. But if we were doing this podcast 2 years ago, I would have said there's a great example of a way to be differentiated, break through the noise. So anyway, I'm always looking for those new things. I mean, one thing I'm super interested in right now is manufacturing and owning moments as a founder and a startup. The classic example of this is what Benioff did with the No Software campaign 25 years ago at the Siebel User Conference. If we can get into that later on the show if you want, like how that worked. But that is the best example of a founder like manufacturing this moment that the market couldn't ignore. Another example of something that I think is pretty arcane and differentiated is I really believe every early stage startup and founder needs to break into the kind of semi-exclusive, semi-secret club that exists in most markets, right? You need to figure out a way to like insert yourself into this community of early adopters, influencers, investors that tend to exist in a lot of markets, right? Like if you sell into SaaS companies, like we all tried to do 5-10 years ago, there were these early adopters in just about every SaaS market that would all go to the same events. They were all in the same group chats, right? They were all gossiping together. You have to figure out a way to insert yourself into that, again, semi-exclusive, semi-secret club. So those are just two examples, but I'm super into like differentiated, arcane go-to-market tactics that allow you to like interrupt the market.
Just two really important points. Number one, I love that we're talking about the attention economy, and I think Craig was slacking through that entire answer. But then also, like you kind of disclaim that like this is early stage, it's a startup stuff. It may not apply across the board. I would really refute that. I think we're running into like large, small, like everyone is really not only struggling with the same things, but the things that work tend to be incredibly transient between, hey, small startup, couple people in go to market to like large enterprise teams. They're obviously just dealing with, more, layers of complexity and operation and so on. But I think that is just a really interesting point there as well. So, and great answer and a lot of stuff to dig in there. But Craig, I want to give you the throw the mic at your feet so you can what are you seeing? Are you seeing something similar? What's out there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wasn't on Slack. I was looking up the word arcane because he used it 5 times, and I was like, I haven't heard it in a B2B podcast before, but that,
that's how you create those interesting moments.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's because everyone wants to talk to me about go-to-market AI and AI, right? And
funny, people are still doing the software.
It's not
amazing.
It's not but the thing is the question of, well, should everyone, or some stupid generic question like that, be going to go-to-market AI? And it's like, well, hold on a sec, because we're in this is really a crazy moment, because you have the attention economy is combined with massive economic uncertainty. That is not a good combo to sell into. And so you have this is the first time after all the bullshit that we've all done for years about understand your buyer, where actually the buying environment has changed. And it is very disruptive, and like we don't understand it and they don't understand it yet. So you've got this, that's why what Scott's talking about with his arcane differentiated moments becomes hypercritical, because it's not just that they're busy, it's that their work life is really just, unless you're at OpenAI and you're just growing like crazy, like everyone else is in, the struggle is real. And so the buying environment makes things really hard, and to understand that is like step number one. And part of that, by the way, is, I will quote our friend Ted Purcell, who said, when sellers always think that buyers know how to buy and we just have to get it out of them, and he's like, and they don't anymore. They don't know how to, and so we're bringing new stuff to most businesses are disrupted in a big way, and that changes a lot of things on how we market and sell. And so if you combine all the things Scott said with that element, that makes for a challenging environment to market and sell into. Okay. So we got Sean Kester on the phone. As he can tell you, him and I used to do calls with this guy at 11 at night, 2 days a week, because he was destroying it. He was at Sales Loft. He was like a Costa Rican bartender, comes up there, and he's like, fuck it. And these dudes, he was pushing these dudes, and it was all email initially, and they were just driving massive pipeline. Okay. Per Scott's thing, Sales Loft and their competitor outreach became the conversation of the VCs, became the conversation of the founder. Everyone in this ecosystem that they were all selling to, which was tech initially, became a part. So all of these things came together. They just did both them and their competitor did this right. And Sean was like, I was learning a ton from him. He was learning a ton from me. And now we got to sort of take that, because that won't work now. Right. You're going to have to be thinking about what Scott's talking about, which is, by the way, it's actually, it's kind of complex, right? Which is like, you figure out the category of people you want to go into. And now we got to figure out how we can, get in front of them in this really remarkable way. And that's changed. Now, I do think the playbook, that, we all know, I actually think the bigger companies, they're not fine because they're still faced with this buying environment. But if you have a brand, okay, this is going to come back to brand. So I always use the CrowdStrike example. When their SDRs send an email and say, we just launched observability or something, like, they'll get responses. But if startup A does that, they will get no responses. So, you know what I mean? Because everyone, if you're a bellwether, people are going to want to know what you do. Now, I would say, I was just responding to your thing. This is like big versus, it's actually, you are right on it. It's not big versus small. It's brand and bellwether versus not. Because Lovable, if they send me an email, I'm going to respond because I'm dying to find out what people are doing with that. Right. And so this is part of that. If I could layer anything onto Scott's thing, is we have to become as fast as possible without, in many cases, if your product isn't doing it for you, which is what happened with Cursor and Level, like the product came first and the marketing came second. These things ended up converging into a really big company. But if you are marketing, you do have to, right? If you have to slog something uphill, is the hardest thing ever right now. You do have to take everything in that Scott said, and then you have to own, your brand has to own that category. You have to be in every piece of the people that influence that category. And that's hard. We could talk about specifics on that. That's interesting. That's hard, because if you take Sean's story, they beat the shit out of it until their brand took off, right? They were masters of pipeline generation. O'Malley, Kester, these guys just went for it. And then everyone's like, paid attention. Now, I'm not sure that would work on I don't think the go-to-market side could beat the shit out of them. A product can now, but those are unicorns for a reason. But for the rest of us, we have to behave differently. So that's kind of my add-on to Scott's thing, without getting into specifics, which I know we can do throughout the conversation. But that's my take right now.
So I would say, combined with what we're seeing in the market, what is absolutely proven is going out and trying to do these, following this manual, which largely has been B2B go-to-market, trying to pick that up and be like, oh, I need to hire X number of SDRs. They're going to send X number of emails a day. I'm going to be able to get X number of responses and on down the funnel. Does not work. And so you're left with largely what you guys are alluding to there, which is, you have to stand out. You have to build a brand where there is none. You have to create this awareness. You have to do that by doing things that are really uncommon, that are, pattern interrupts, so on and so forth. And frankly, have a lot of value to the people that you're trying to sell into. And I'll float this over to Sean, because we talked a lot about what you did at SalesLoft. How does the notion of, is scale out the window at this point? Or is that just what we're seeing as the role of that AI will play going forward, is being able to do some of that research and so on and so forth at scale? But it just seems like that age-old recipe where, hey, let me build my flywheel and I start adding, resources in each category and go to the moon. It doesn't seem like there's an opportunity for that any longer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just talking about it got me reminiscing of the times that I would get, late phone calls from the funnel holic, which I'd answer every time. But, You know,
What was it about the Biggie and Tupac battle, or was it about actual?
You know, it took there's varying levels to it. But when we were getting into it, I think, you know, and then just thinking back on the story with Sales Off, we did some very unscalable things to get to a point where we could scale. So, you know, just first and foremost, like Kyle just was a content machine and started, you know, pounding the answers to these things and kind of what the mission was and what we were trying to achieve and into the market before we had anything from a product perspective to back it up. And then we were doing very unscalable things around kind of like guerrilla marketing at events and doing things, you know, with getting some people in dinners and whatnot. And like, you know, Tammy and O'Malley and Kyle and, you know, we did some wild stuff. But I think if I think back on it, like we didn't just throw SDR team at it. Like we did a bunch of things to create buzz and a brand in order to throw SDR team on it and then build that pipeline. And I think that's still true, but people don't understand that that's what, in order to get to that sustainability and to that scalability, like there's a bunch of unscalable things that had to happen. And most people, especially kind of technical founders, just think you can just throw sales at it, which is never the right answer, but there's no kind of basis for this. And so it's like, well, we did cadences, we did sequences, and we had the messaging out there. We did this many emails and phone calls and no one's responding back. It's like, well, no shit. Because like no one knows who you are or cares about what you're trying to achieve. And so, you know, to Scott's point, like I think manufacturing these moments or manufacturing kind of some, I don't know, just the basis of a brand, like those things are critically important. And that's like, I don't see enough people doing it. And it's hard for them to understand that's valuable. And then when they do start trying to do it, we've also seen them fall short by just using like ChatGPT to write some dumb article that is, you know, vaguely relevant, but it's not pinpointed. And like, they're like, well, we're doing 5 blogs a week. It's like, yeah, but they're all shit. So, I mean, it's, again, you have to kind of really put a bunch of time and effort into doing these unscalable things to create kind of a scalable outcome.
Hey, I just add one thing to that, Sean. So I think it's easy to think about brand as like, well, it's not scalable. It's actually the most scalable thing you can do in sales. If you have to succeed at it, you have to actually build the brand. But if you're successful at doing it, it's actually the most leverage you could ever have in a sales and marketing organization. Per Craig's point about like, am I going to respond to a CrowdStrike email or am I going to respond to a random startups email? Basically, the CrowdStrike brand is the most scalable, high leverage thing that they have in their go-to-market organization. It's hard to do.
I used to tell the story all the time with, you know, partners at Marketo, AEs who were highly successful there. And then they went to a lesser known company afterwards because of their success at Marketo, and they get calls from her like, dude, this is brutal. Like nobody knows who I am. They don't answer the phone. They don't pick up emails. They're like, yeah, you had the purple machine behind you. Like that's the difference. So yeah, that's completely real.
So just throw this out. Whoever can grab the hook, run with it. Why does it seem that founders naturally don't, or you know, maybe this is a skewed perspective, but what I see is founders don't gravitate towards the stuff that we're talking about here. They don't naturally know that. They don't, that's not what they're talking about building in terms of these like difficult, highly skilled, highly creative aspects. Everyone seems to index on the equation, the Craig, you said like technology, like what can we buy that's going to allow us to do this thing? You know, I'm going to get people in this seat and then we're going to get more meetings. But it's all that connected tissue and the stuff that frankly you don't hear a lot about from a content person, or not enough about, I guess is what I would say. Is that just it there? Is it a lack of understanding and folks sharing those, you know, things that did in between the nodes, like that connective tissue? What's the gap?
Well, really quickly, I think that the word Scott used earlier, I wanted to tap into a little bit. You said dismissive about the founder's perception of go-to-market, right? You work with founders who are maybe afraid of or dismissive of go-to-market. And I think that might be what Justin's talking about, because if you're working with technical founders, go-to-market, sales and marketing is a black hole. It's like something that doesn't align with their personality and skill set. So what did you mean by dismissive? Like, was it like an intentional dismission or like dismissive because I don't get it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few different dynamics here. It's like, what's a typical founder's background? Technical, right? So start with the premise that they just sort of don't know anything about go-to-market whatsoever, right? okay, if you have a technical background and you do want to get into go-to-market, where are you going to go? You're going to go to unquantifiable brand, or are you going to go to quantifiable demand gen, lead gen?
Yeah.
You're going to go to quantifiable. That's your background. That's
Inputs
your
and
DNA.
outputs.
And then, there are other dynamics here. Like the dismissive thing is really, we've built this whole culture in Silicon Valley, which is like build a great product, everything else just falls into place. That is Silicon Valley startup culture in a nutshell. And it's totally wrong. It's totally wrong. So, I mean, like one thing I tell all my founders that I work with is like, you need someone in your organization who ideally is you, that's like Mr. Beast for your company. Like that, you need Mr. Beast for SaaS AI. Every company needs, that's what Lovable has, that's what they do. Right. So Craig was talking about Lovable. I mean, that's the key to, the product is magical and lends itself to like go to market, right? Like you can have these magical experiences in the product as part of the go to market motion. But really what's happening at Lovable is there's allegedly this guy inside of Lovable who's I think of as like Mr. Beast for AI. He's just coming up with brilliant ideas.
Yeah, there's allegedly a master of social in there that helps with the ideas. Yeah, no, by the way, I agree. I cannot stop looking at that candle behind Gray. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the
dude.
decor.
Like what the fuck? Get that thing
Why
off
don't
there.
you light that?
Oh my God.
Put a bathrobe on and read us a
Smoking jacket
from
I am so glad we're talking about this because I just want to focus on the moment that I've created for all of you and the brand that
this moment is backfiring. This moment is backfiring.
Yeah, but sorry, I can't. I just had to. But but you are right though, and I think that's where Wagner was leading us, is that the hard thing about some of these moments in the brand building is that it's hard to track.
Mm-hmm.
And we've become too trackable, and that's Gray and Wagner's fault as well, because they were part of the marketing revolution, which was you could
100%.
track everything. Right. But bro, if you're not able to track getting a fake Benioff and having him come down to Dreamforce and getting all those pictures. You're not able to track when Kester and those guys were shooting, had a money gun and they were shooting it at Jim Cramer. Those things worked, but you can't go back and go load them into your, system and come back. That's really hard, actually. It's hard for all the folks in the ecosystem around these companies. But if you so we're on the Lovable thing. They did a contest where they took like a 19-year-old kid, right, who had no development experience, and put him up against someone with years of development experience, and they had this showdown that was socially driven that had like 1 million or 10 million. I mean, like
4
so
million.
many
4 million.
4 million. That that's risky. And you got to be willing to take risks to build brand in this world. And it's just, it is.
Well, but
I actually
that would not
understand
work. That would not work if the product wasn't there. And I will say that I don't think enough I'll just say go-to-market professionals. I was going to say marketers, but not enough. Well, of the majority of go-to-market professionals are really looking at those dimensions when they're evaluating a role or a position. And I think you have to have the underlying asset in order to do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, how did you, we were talking about the dismissive thing. I just had some thoughts on some things as you guys were talking that I've seen that kind of work. I would just say, number one is, after years of us banging our fists on the table about ABM, everyone says ABM is dead, yet everyone who's successful is incredibly targeted. So fuck you. ABM didn't die. You just, a bunch of kids renamed it, right?
It's just a terrible term.
Into micro-segmenting. But I'm telling you right now, what I've seen, like a guy me and Scott knows, this guy, David Boscovich, he's a founder. He's a go-to-market founder. He's definitionally.
Totally.
And like, he comes from the top and says, we're only going to work 100 to 500 accounts at a time. They are going to all have homogeneous use cases, right? That we can identify and know. And that's it. You go over 500, throw it in the garbage. And it's like, that's ABM, guys. That's highly targeted. So that's one thing that in order to do the things that you need to do, you are going to have to be really smart and segment who you're going to go after. So that's the one thing I've seen. And then we talk about sort of disruptive channels. Scott's got a ton of really good examples, but like I have some that are simple that we all know. Like one, we have a legal AI company. The founder does workshops, online classes for lawyers on how to use AI. It is a machine, right? And that stuff we would have done 10 years ago.
Totally.
But it's totally relevant because she knows her market. She knows what they need, and she's giving it to them. And here's the double click, though, which is right up Scott's alley. It's the founder. She is the iconic figure related to this company, and she's out there, touching the market, informing the market, and doing it in this incredibly charismatic way, right? So that's one thing
that's brilliant.
It's
so
unbelievable.
So simple but brilliant.
Yeah,
but isn't that the beauty of vertical SaaS, right? Like everything we talked about in the noise economy or awareness economy, like that's the beauty of vertical SaaS, right? Like you can do things that may have worked 10 years ago because it's not just this massive overlay of everything we're exposed to.
Totally. But my point is, if you're a horizontal app, you can replicate vertical SaaS by segmenting, right?
Yeah,
There's like the guy we were just talking about, Boscovich. They're ready for this. He's killing it with the weed companies because he figured out, because they have this insane, by the way, process they have to go through from an accounting and compliance perspective that he could solve. And so he's vertical SaaS now. Now he's got a whole bunch of other verticals, but he can replicate exactly what you're talking about, Josh. Everyone should learn from that. And that was, again, I just hate to say it, the point of ABM. The other thing I've seen is the stuff Scott's doing around, and Scott would have to dig in. Like I have actually hired Scott to go work with our portfolio because he's got this formula that does work on LinkedIn and taking that founder story out there. So I led with the legal AI story because she's found a really good channel, but the other one has been, we've seen where if you can, LinkedIn is this new landscape where you can, asymmetrical warfare, as Scott likes to put it, can be played, right? The little guy can fight the big guy and frankly, probably do it better. And that's the second one. The third one, though, back to ABM, is you cannot do one thing. If you've segmented your market, you have to do multiple things. So, Christina McMillan, you guys remember her from Topo?
Mm-hmm.
I've tasked her with going out and interviewing anybody who's generating pipeline and how. And the number one, so I'm getting back all this really interesting info from her. Number one is segmentation, and number two is multi-channel air cover along with outreach tied to events. These things are all working. So one is, the event, everyone is doing really well if you have unique event products that you can put to your market, but that's not, you don't just put out, as you guys know, you don't just put out the event. You hit those people with targeted ads, then you reach out to them, and then you invite them. That's working great. Third one, are you ready for this? Phone. The phone. The ultimate disruption, which is, that is the channel where, and if you guys have you seen this product, Titan X?
No.
They grab telco data to figure out who's more likely to answer the phone. So they got, they got guys, AEs, standing an hour on the phone and getting 4 connects and that is the ultimate disruption, because if they pick up the phone, you got them. That's part of what we're trying to do in the attention economy, is just get them. And so that's another one. If the phone is in your market, and then doing really strategic, picking the right people who are more likely to answer their phone and going out, that is amazing. That one's working really well. And then Scott would probably go over this. I'm doing this a lot, which is if you have a founder brand or you have a thought leader, using them as the outreach person is the big win. That is like magic, right, Scott? I haven't seen that lose except when the founder's coming out of nowhere. If the founder's hiding,
you have to have a brand. Yeah.
Yes. So brand comes first, but those things, but think about all of those things. Those are really interesting because they're not all of them are new. But we always did those things. They were kind of fun projects and we still just sent a ton of emails. Now they become the key vehicle, except for the sort of air cover outreach type of play that's I'm just talking specifically about channels, but the phone one has been really interesting for me. And I think that's great. It does require a new set of training, which AI is really good on, phone training. But yeah, so I just wanted to sort of bring out some of the things that I think have been really amazing, frankly. So
by the way, Craig, I'm glad you brought up the phone. I don't know if this is going to work yet, but one of the things I'm experimenting with a couple founders on is for their top 50 accounts where we know who like the senior decision maker is, I just have the founder leave like a 60-second voicemail for that person. But it's not like, hey, I want to book an appointment with you. It's like, here are our thoughts on the market. Here's like a secret that you're not going to hear anywhere else. You don't even have to call me back. I sent you an email. Do whatever you want to do. It's like a really valuable, insight-laden voicemail that the founder just leaves.
I've seen that work. I've seen that work really well yes, the singular insight that is proprietary, you can't get it anywhere else. But when there is a call to action, the call to action is like a report for that specific, a piece of research. Again, no bait on the line, right? Like, hey, let me know if you want our entire report. We just released it. Happy to send that over to you. Just, kick me back a text with your email, right? That stuff, again, with the buyer caveat, but I wanted to throw an analogy there because we worked with this company and all of their outbound was via email, and really for no reason. It like if you zoom out, like not even very far, like 10 feet, that their buyer is our medical offices. Like they have to answer the phone. Like why aren't you calling these people? You know what I mean? And it's solely because the mentality was phone is dead, everything's email, because they're looking at it from like a B2B horizontal lens. But back to your point, if you know your buyer, you know where they're going to go, what they're open to, what they're interested in. And Josh, I wanted to give you a little bit of time to talk about what I think is a really great example of everything that we're chatting about here, which is like you stepping into a business within the, as the CRO, and just how you've turned around that team. Like, what did you focus on? Where'd you spend your time? And, because of course, like every environment, results had to come quick.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing I want to say, I did kind of create a play that's a mixture of what Scott, you just said, the, executive outreach, and Craig, the phone, right? So in this Portco, the buyer is dental offices, right? They have to answer the phone. So I said, listen, if you've got a group, so our ICP, our segment that we're focusing on is groups, emerging groups from 5 to 15, and then mid-market groups from 15 to 100 practices underneath management, right? So the play here is call, if they have 5 offices, call those 5 offices, have a specific set of questions that help you understand how they manage their front office, right? Their systems, how they answer the phone, routing, blah, 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 blah. Take those back, look at them, create a point of view, find the executive at the group level, have me reach out with that point of view then for them to get that thing, right? And that's been kind of a combination of the phone and that executive POV that allows you to do some smart outbound, right? Again, a group of people that have to answer the phone, and then having me, they'll look at my LinkedIn and be like, oh, okay, this guy's not an idiot. I mean, not at the stratosphere of you gentlemen, obviously, but so it's been a pretty cool play, right? And we're starting to get their legs under them. There's a lot of training involved in that because these guys are not the idea of crafting a point of view is not natural to them. And I think that goes back to what Justin was saying is coming in the door and doing a quick overview of where the lowest hanging fruit is for this organization. It really comes down to, how you sell really. And, it was a feature function dump all day, right? Demo calls were horrible. They had a lot of inbound from partners, which was cool, but how they were capturing that inbound and building value in the solution was not good at all. Right. So that, first things first was a little bit of triage, right? How do you sell? How do you sell on value? How do you run a discovery call that's not just a dance monkey demo? Things like that. That was kind of the first thing. And then the second was identifying the segment where we could win. And that's where it comes back to identifying that 5 to 15, 15 to 100, those segments where we could have partners that are more valuable. We could win. We could create some quick pipeline that's now turning into the thesis for 2026, which, has more go-to-market apparatus wrapped around it. But I didn't have a lot of time to build all that stuff when I first came in. So it was very much like, who are the partners that fit? How can we run? How can we sell on value? And those types of things. If we go back to
before you go too far, Josh, I just want to mention there that like people talk about the runway that's necessary to go up market, mid market, or enterprise. I mean, what Josh has done within that environment inside of 6 months really is the proof point that if you know that buyer, if you spend your time and know the market, and obviously if you know how to train and enable talent, like they've done that to not only a degree, but to a degree where it's the single key to them hitting their number this year. So it can be done. It's just, you've got to be pulling the right levers.
Yeah. And I think the crazy observation for me around what I'm seeing in the market is an outcome of what you guys said, right? And the outcome is buyers are really apprehensive. And there's two things that drive that. One is SaaS over the last 10, 15 years, I think burned a lot of people with a lot of promises and not a lot of results that they could point to. And it may have put them on the hot seat to a certain extent. And then the other side of it is this massive acceleration of AI they don't even understand. They can't wrap their head around it. I literally had an executive tell me this week that why would I sign an annual contract for an AI product when I don't know what it's going to look like in 2 weeks, not to mention a year? Right. So you've got this extreme apprehension from the buyer that's pulling from both ends. And I think the pivot that you have to make as a company is, and this was another tenet of ABM, I think, Craig, I remember in a workshop you did years ago, get them closer to the finish line as early as you possibly can. So that's like extreme sales engineering early in the cycle, right? Like we're giving you product, we're designing product with you, we're building customer flows or patient flows in this example. We're overlaying our solution like visually and then bringing our engineering team in to say, here's the connection points and here's how it's going to work, and maybe running it for a period of time, right? Like I think that like really hard proof earlier versus later is probably something we're just gonna have to get used to because of that apprehension.
Yeah, you just described forward deployed engineering, right? I mean, that's why it's one of the hottest things in go-to-market today. Exactly what you described.
Yeah. So it's a great segue, and really it's the last topic here. And I'll start with you. How do you answer the AI question in terms of, hey, how do we deploy AI in this organization? How's it going to impact our go-to-market motion? Like we've got to start somewhere. Where do you tell people to start?
Sorry, is that for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's too bad because I don't have a good answer to this question.
Well, shit.
No, I mean, I don't have any. I don't think I have any really like novel thinking here. I mean, my thing is whether you're the buyer or the vendor, you need to be dealing in very specific use cases. I do not buy into this idea of like, well, you can promise sort of like these generic productivity improvements, right? And win. Whether you're the buyer, mostly I'm giving this advice in the context of like you're a vendor trying to sell AI. And I can't tell you how many founders and marketing and sales leaders who want to say things like, well, we improve the overall productivity of your sales organization. I'm like, that's bullshit. First of all, you don't know that because AI is so new. Second of all, like you may win a pilot over that. Like some board told a CMO or CRO to go figure out AI. You may get a pilot via that type of messaging and value prop, but that is not enduring, sustaining value. And so you need to be pointing to specific use cases inside of that organization where you want them to adopt AI. So that is really the big distinction that I would draw, whether it's for a vendor or for a buyer. Deal in specific AI use cases.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna disagree with Scott.
Yes.
Yeah, it's late too. There's like at the buzzer.
I know.
So
do I get rebuttal time if Craig disagrees with me?
No, I'm gonna run this fucker up to the end, man.
This is a walk. All right.
So, well, look, I would agree for the vendors in go to market. I do. I would. Like if we go back to the Sean example, at the end of the day, you got more. Like CROs want bigger and better, stronger. That meant in the case of Sean's thing, more emails. That worked. In the case of Marketo's thing, forget all that other shit you guys used to sell. They could send a lot of emails and get 400 people to their webinar. So I agree with that from a vendor perspective, but from a organizational perspective, the most important thing you could do right now is to talk to the machines. We have to figure out AI, and what I've seen is that we're in a phase right now where productivity is the thing that we're working on, and it's not trivial. I wouldn't sell to it like Scott was saying, but I would do it, right? Because if you just take a sales rep, it's not the busy work that people sort of poo-poo AI on. It's like, well, wait, we've been complaining about the fact that they have to do busy work for a long time, right? And so if you take Salesforce updates, there's a perfect example. That's invaluable.
It's a great example on both sides because they also weren't very good at it. And the same goes for account research, So
yes, those things matter. If you take product marketing, a lot of the use cases are qualitative support, like market research, content. These are things that, that were made their lives harder and didn't allow them to be strategic. We should embrace that and be good with that. In my opinion, that's like stage 1 in AI. Now, stage 2 is what Scott's talking about. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's why that MIT thing, I know everyone shot it. I did too. It was like 5% SAR. Well, I don't blame them because what Scott's saying is true. You can't go to the board and say we're more productive. It's just like, and so that's phase 2 is when we start taking on real use cases that move real levers. But phase 1 is okay, guys. It is okay. Like you just go build first, then you'll be able to buy. If you go build just using horizontal platforms right now, what I've seen is the people that learn how to build and are building across their org, they buy, and they're great buyers because they're the ones that did exactly what Scott said. At the time that they've built and played with these things, they understand the power of AI. Now they take a use case of an area that they want to go fix, and then they decide, well, can I build it or should I buy it and go tackle it? Those are the ones where they're successful. They work backwards from an outcome. They figure out how we work, and then they figure out what's the best way for us to optimize it. That's where, in this second phase, which is of more meaningful use cases, people will be more successful. But right now, in my opinion, we should be good with the productivity things that people are building because they do matter. But they don't matter. Like they won't, like in the end, like your AI initiatives and all the success you're going to have is going to have to be a board level number changer, and that's where Scott's coming in. So I just believe we're in a phase where it's okay to play, and then go. And by the way, I just want to make sure I stole the quote. The most important thing you could do is talk to the machines from Jordan Crawford. Attributed.
Cited, noted. Quick one word answer.
By the way, you changed I totally agree with that. That's right.
Oh, wow.
Successful debate.
That's how
you
Successful
debate.
All right,
debate.
end it. Kristen, end the podcast right now.
That has happened. By the way, that's happened like 4 times in my career. That's one of them.
What
Chalk it
happened?
up.
I don't know. I
And-
just blacked out.
And all 4 were Craig Rosenberg convincing me of something. So
Hey,
Yeah.
guys, quick one word answer from either from each of you. Scott, would you hire someone that's not currently using AI in their personal life?
no.
Craig.
No chance.
So I mean that's your answer right there in terms of like what is the what's the output even on the productivity side is that's what I hear from any hiring manager these days. Like they're looking for folks that not only are leveraging it in their own lives, but have thought about how they're leveraging it in their role and certainly in the role that they're interviewing for. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Huge amount of insight.
Hold on 1 second. We don't have time to make fun of you.
No,
Okay.
that's
Absolutely not.
The episode is
Sorry,
now
we're up on time here.
no more Colin talk, no more 80s library talk. We're out.
Masterpiece.
Guys, theater.
No more
Yeah.
candlesticks.
Radius walls.
Yeah.
Masterpiece theater is actually really good. I like that. Guys, again, thank you so much. Great insight. If you guys don't follow these gentlemen on LinkedIn and listen to what they have to say, I'd strongly encourage you to do so.
Hey, just one other thing.
Oh, here we go. What is
Sorry,
it?
just really quick.
What is happening?
I hate podcasts. I hate them. But
What a great close.
that was actually a pretty good podcast. That was a good podcast.
Sounds like our
You
intro.
say so yourself. Yeah, exactly. I thought my podcast day was excellent.
Particularly
What's
my
up?
points were
It's
excellent.
yours. I'm just a guest. But objectively speaking, like zoom out, that was a pretty good podcast.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean,
Pretty
again,
good.
guys, really, really awesome points. Craig Rosenberg, Chief Platform Officer over at Scale Ventures, Mr. Scott Albro, advisor to future go-to-market founders all over the world. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Josh, Sean, always great to see you guys. If you're tuning in for the first time, for God's sakes, like, subscribe, share, and make sure that you're following all these gentlemen. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Thanks, guys.
No, thanks.